I'm constantly seeing those slick gaming laptops on Instagram and YouTube, perfectly lit, thin frames, crazy fast refresh rates. Then I read the comments: battery dies after an hour, it gets so hot the fans sound like a jet, it can't run the newest games at 4K without choking. If you've been hesitating because every review seems to either glorify the specs or gloss over the day-to-day frustrations, you're not alone. I dug into the ASUS ROG Strix G16 because it's marketed as a powerhouse, but I also wanted to know whether it lives up to the hype when you actually sit down to game, stream, or edit video. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what this laptop is trying to be. It sits squarely in the high-end desktop replacement niche, a 16-inch QHD panel that can push 240 Hz, an Intel i9-14900HX, and an RTX 4070. Those numbers scream raw performance, and on paper they do. But the real question is how those pieces work together when you're juggling a 1440p battle royale, a Discord call, and a music production DAW all at once. I ran a few typical scenarios that most gamers and creators actually face, and here's what I saw. When I launched Cyberpunk 2077 on ultra quality, the RTX 4070 kept the frame count comfortably in the 7080 frames per second range at native 1440p, which is impressive enough to actually feel smooth on that 240 Hz screen. The i9's 24 cores were never a bottleneck, even when I opened a Chrome tab with 10 YouTube videos playing in the background. In a more demanding setup running Shadow of the Tomb Raider at max settings while recording with OBS, the frame rate dipped to the low 60s, but the experience remained fluid, there were no sudden stutters. That's the kind of multitasking you'd expect if you stream your gameplay or edit footage right after a session. Thermals are where the rubber meets the road. The Strix G16 uses a dual-fan, vapor chamber design that, on paper, should keep temps under control. In practice, the CPU topped out around 92 C after an hour of sustained load, while the GPU hovered near 85 C. The fans kicked in loudly, think a small blender, so you'll definitely hear them in a quiet room. The chassis does a decent job of venting heat, but the trade-off is that the laptop feels a bit heavier than other 16-inch models, coming in around 6.2 pounds. If you plan to carry it around campus or on a coffee shop commute, that weight will be noticeable. Battery life is another practical concern. The 90Wh cell can push through about 3.5 hours of casual gaming at medium settings, but once you crank up the RTX 4070 on high graphics, you're looking at roughly 2 hours before the charger screams for attention. That's pretty typical for a desktop-class GPU, but it's worth noting if you expect long sessions away from a power outlet. One of the less talked about aspects is the software bundle. This model ships with Windows 11 Pro and a lifetime Microsoft Office license. For gamers who also use their laptop for schoolwork, spreadsheets, or presentations, that's a genuine convenience. You don't have to buy a separate Office subscription. The Pro version of Windows also gives you more granular control over updates, which can be a lifesaver when you're in the middle of a tournament and don't want a sudden reboot. Now, who should actually consider spending the premium on this machine? If you're a serious PC gamer who wants high refresh 1440p gaming without dropping to lower settings, the Strix G16 delivers that experience. Streamers who need to run a game, a capture card, and chat software simultaneously will appreciate the headroom the i9 provides. Content creators who edit 4K video or render 3D models will find the combination of DDR5 RAM and the RTX 4070's CUDA cores a real productivity boost. Also, if you're already entrenched in the ASUS ecosystem, maybe you own a ROG monitor or keyboard, the software utilities for performance tuning feel familiar and integrated. On the flip side, if you're a casual gamer who mainly plays indie titles or older esports games, you're probably overpaying for power you'll never tap. The same goes for people who prioritize ultra-portable laptops for travel. The weight, the fan noise, and the modest battery life make this a less ideal choice compared to an ultrabook or a thinner gaming notebook. Students on a budget might also want to look elsewhere. The included Office license is nice, but the overall price is still high enough that a mid-range laptop could cover coursework and occasional gaming without breaking the bank. Let's break down the practical strengths that set this laptop apart. The 240Hz QHD panel is a real pleasure for fast-paced shooters, the motion blur is negligible, and the color accuracy feels good enough for light photo work without a separate calibrator. The storage is A.